Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Spanish Friday. Bienvenidos a Viernes Español.
Viernes Español. Yes.
Okay, all right. This is a special series with the Iowa State Dairy News and Views podcast from the ISU Extension Dairy Team. I am Gail Carpenter. I am your host for this series of episodes. I'm the State Dairy Specialist with Iowa State. I'm joined on this series by Miguel Rangel, who is the owner of Optimum Dairy Consulting. In these Spanish Friday episodes, we are talking about all things dairy while I try to practice Spanish, and Miguel is infinitely patient with me. So
Infinite. I don't know about that.
yeah. We'll see. If we stop doing these, you'll know why. All right. This is episode 4 of this series, and we have spent a lot of the previous 2 episodes. We talked a lot about safety. Seguridad is the term that for safety in Spanish. And as part of Miguel's work, he works a lot with dairy producers on how to on employee recruitment, but also retention. And one of the things we talked about a lot was how important farm meetings can be. So we want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. We talked about that, especially on our previous episode when we were discussing silage safety, ensilado, the term for silage. And so we want to maybe dig into a little more discussion about meetings. As an academic, that's a really, it's a word I don't like because I do them a lot, but they are very important. But before we hop into all of that, Miguel and I were spending a little bit of time talking about accents. And we've talked about accents a little bit in some of our previous episodes too. And so I wanted to just have a little bit, like a couple minute discussion about that. I know when I've mentioned on this podcast before that I know I can understand Spanish speakers from some countries better than other countries. And I sometimes will just throw like Latin American accents together in like a big like bin. But I also know from personal experience, I say I have a Midwestern accent. But that's because I've lived in Michigan, Minnesota, Kansas, Nebraska, Ohio, and also Southwest Ontario, which isn't the Midwest, obviously, that's Canada. But I've lived all over and Iowa. I should throw that. That's where I live now.
Iowa. Yeah.
So I think at this point, I just kind of have an amalgamation of all sorts of different accents from the Midwest. But I know if I'm talking to to somebody from Iowa, whether it's a dairy producer or someone else, like if somebody is coming from Winneshiek County versus Lee County, like the north of the state versus the south of the state, I hear a difference in accents even then, right? If you're close to the Minnesota border, it sounds maybe a little bit more northern, and southern border of Iowa, maybe a little bit more like Missouri, all states within the Midwest, right? And so it's like, I know we have a ton of micro accents even within the United States. But I'm sure Latin American countries, Central South America, it's a similar story there too, right? So, Miguel, what would you say your accent is in Spanish?
I would say it is accent. You could, well, this is the thing. You have people who speak Spanish, and when they speak English, a lot of them will sound very similar.
Yeah.
The only difference there is the skill level or the proficiency that each person has regarding the language. So I couldn't tell whether someone is from Nicaragua or Mexico or Peru or Bolivia. I couldn't tell just by speaking, just by listening.
When they're speaking English.
Because at the end of the day, they have a native language and they learn, right?
Yeah.
a second language. So they will have an accent, but you can't tell from where. Now, when they speak Spanish, that's when
Yeah.
you can tell. It's like you said, you can hear someone from Texas and you know that person is from Texas.
Yeah.
You go to New York or California, and I guess you can tell either they have a very clear English, or depending on the region, they will have some accent, like you said, a Midwestern accent.
Hmm.
So it is kind of like when difficult to tell in English, but I
Hmm.
would say British English and, for example, English in the US, yes. There are shows. I remember Game of Thrones. I
Yeah.
couldn't understand
Oh yeah.
because I just had a really hard time. But I can watch shows that are made in the US and you don't have an issue. But I would say the English in the Midwest, it's a pretty clear
Okay.
English. Like not that much accent, not that much intonation changes, so that helps.
So would you say anybody from the US? I talk about my Karen accent when I speak Spanish. I feel like I sound like a Karen. Like I sound like a. I very much. I am a white lady, and so when I speak, I sound like a white lady, and when I speak Spanish, I sound a lot like a white lady. Would you say that all Americans kind of sound like a Karen or a white lady when they're speaking Spanish?
I would say for the most part, yes, because
Yeah.
like I said, it is very difficult to speak in Spanish without an accent when your native language is English.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
it's very difficult. So
Yeah.
you guys will struggle in the same words,
Okay.
right? Because you were born with English. I
Yep.
wasn't born with English. So that's why people who speak Spanish struggle with the same words, like even the word schedule, right?
Yes.
Not everybody can say schedule. Another word is, for example, um, let's talk about calf, a baby
Yes.
calf.
Yeah.
Not everybody can say calf. It's one of those things where the position of the pronunciation pretty much it's the difficult part. The same if you guys speak English as a native language, some words in Spanish you guys are going to read them the same way.
Yeah.
Like mastitis and mastitis, right? Like we
Yeah.
talked yesterday
Yeah.
or the other day, I don't remember. But anyway, some of those changes.
Yeah. I think the R sound is the one that I
They are
struggle with
some.
a lot. It sounds a lot. It's more like on the top of your mouth. Like the R
Brr.
is yeah. I can roll my R's, but I have to like pause and think about it before I roll my R's, right? And even when you're not rolling, like the double R has more of a roll, like a sound, right, versus a single R. But even when you do this, it has a little bit more of a roll to it. It's more like it's at the top of your mouth. And when I say R, it's in the bottom of my mouth, right? Like that's kind of when I'm thinking about it, I think about where am I saying this in my mouth? And like calf, I think
Yes.
is a good example. If I say cough,
Calf.
that's in like the back of my throat versus calf is in the front of my mouth, right? Like
Exactly.
um
Exactly.
yeah, and so it's kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, I gotta reorient it, and sometimes I feel like I do better or worse, but ours are one that I think I really struggle with, and probably a lot of native English speakers will struggle with too. The other thing I noticed is
And
that Spanish speakers are very light on a lot of their vowels, right? Like it's like they like the D sound is like a it's like a like it's just
the
very light on like the tip of your tongue, right? Versus
the
that if I'm saying a D sound, it's a harder D versus the
yeah.
um
And the other thing that or another aspect to remember is in Spanish, vowels only have one sound. In English, you
yeah,
have two, or sometimes I say three.
yeah,
Like the letter U,
yeah,
you say, for example, YouTube, but
yeah,
you also say ultimatum,
yeah,
and at the same time you say cube,
yeah,
cube,
yeah,
or cut, like
yeah,
cut it. So the letter U in Spanish only has one sound, it's U,
ooh,
and that's
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the struggles that all Spanish speakers face, because they say, why you say tube and now you say cut?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, have short sound, long sound, and some more, but short and long sound for sure.
Short vowels, long vowels, and then when you put two vowels together, they say different things, right? Like
Oh, and
ow,
that's
OW or OU, and yeah, yes. Um,
exactly. Hmm.
yes, phonics. So much fun.
Phonics. Yeah.
But again, our listeners probably did not tune in for a linguistics lesson, especially for
Yeah.
non-linguists.
For non-linguists, yeah,
Yeah.
no.
So let's talk about our topic for today, which is meetings. Again, I have so many meetings, but I do also understand that you need to have some, right? Like, so what is when you're talking with producers, how many farms would you say have regularly scheduled employee meetings?
I would say I guess it varies, and it depends on the region, but some farms actually, it's one of those conversations that you have, like you have to have meetings, and it helps when I am present, not because I'm uh, like required, but sometimes it helps just to, hey, let's have a meeting because it's important. We
Hmm.
need to discuss. So it varies, but some farms, yes, they have, if not regular, at least once a month. Some other farms, they don't have meetings at all. And some other farms, they only have meetings when I am there.
Mm,
And I think that, like I said, the meeting should happen no matter who is there. But the important thing is that employees are there and you use the meetings to discuss what's going on at the farm, where we were, where we are, where we are going, what things are new, what things need to be implemented. And then the meeting is not all. You need to
mm,
follow up. Because if you discussed about, we are going to buy a shield for the tractor tomorrow, and this person is going to install it, and people can't jump over the PTO. Well, that needs to be followed up.
yeah,
If not, it's like you didn't have the meeting in the first place.
yeah. I know
Nobody's doing what we agreed.
a lot of meetings I've been in, it feels like, oh, you just have the same meeting over and over again and say the same thing and nothing ever gets done, right? And I think that follow through is such an important part of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and being transparent about how you plan to follow through too, right? Like, okay, maybe you give some different action items, um, maybe or maybe you just say this is a new thing that's going to happen, right? And saying like this is how we will follow up, this is how we will be making sure the action items getting done, this is how we'll be making sure this new procedure will be in place, right? Like um not just saying like not just having the action items, but being transparent about this is how the follow-up's actually gonna work. um I know Crucial Conversations is one of my favorite books that I recommend a lot and have read a couple times. And I've done the Crucial
Mhm.
Conversations training. And one of the things they talk about in the Crucial Conversations is WWWF. And they use that around mostly like one-on-one conversations, but I think it's also a good thing for group meetings or employee meetings, larger meetings. And so it's who does what by when and how will you follow up, right? Like, and so just expressly saying it at the end of a meeting, this is the person, this is the deadline, uh, this is what we're talking about, right? And this is how the follow-up will happen, right? So that could be, um, if it's a safety thing, it might be you all, everyone here will stop jumping over the PTO
Yeah.
immediately,
Yeah.
right? Like
Hmm.
immediately. And we will be watching, right? And we expect you all to watch each other and kind of hold each other accountable, right? Like um so just kind of having that checklist of WWWF, I think that really simplifies some of that action items, right? But
Yes. And another thing that it's important is that before the meeting, and I know not everybody is willing to have a meeting, and sometimes it's difficult to have a meeting, but there are books about how to have effective and efficient meetings.
mhm,
But one thing that you need to have is an agenda. Like these are the topics that we are going to touch. And usually there are some other things that can be discussed since you are having the meeting, right? But just for example, and the other thing is not to make the meetings that long. So
Yeah.
we will learn along the way, but if this is what we need to talk about, this is at the end of the meeting, this is what I would like to accomplish. So
Yep.
you have your list of this is what I'm going to talk about, this is what I would like to accomplish. So when you leave the meeting, you leave with that sense of accomplishment instead of we just talk about things, but we never agreed on who was going to do what
Yep.
or when.
Yep.
For example, quick example, the parlor is not power washed. And
Mm-hmm.
we have the meeting, hey, we have an inspection, the parlor needs to be power washed because the inspector is coming. And the person who is in charge of power washing is there. So it is important to know your people.
Mm-hmm.
And it is important to ask the person, do you agree with what we say that the parlor needs to be ready by Friday? Can you do that? Do you have everything you need to accomplish that?
Yep.
Yes, I have. Okay. Because you don't want to be there on Friday and the parlor is dirty and the person says, oh, it's just that the power washer doesn't work. Well,
Yeah.
that's something that should have been said at the
Yeah.
meeting. But if you
Yeah.
didn't say anything, obviously we have an issue, right?
Right.
And that's something that needs to be solved one way or
Yeah.
another. The parlor needs to be clean. So those are the things that need to be addressed and then follow up.
Yeah. I really like how you say that like we like expressly saying asking somebody what they need, right? Like how can I help you? Right? I think that's really especially like I deal with this with students too, right? Like I think when there's a power dynamic there, it can be difficult for somebody to ask for those things, especially we've talked about psychological safety before, but especially if somebody doesn't feel that safety to be able to speak up, right? And if you have a difference in power dynamic, which you would between a manager and employee or an owner and employee, like there's a power dynamic there. Um, a lot of times the person who's lower on that power dynamic might not feel comfortable being like, well, I don't know how to use the power washer, or I'm missing like it needs new O-rings, or it's not working, it's whatever it is, right? Like making sure that you're specifically being like, hey, how can I help you make sure this gets done? Is there anything that you need or that's bottlenecking you or holding you back um from this getting done?
And another thing is, like I said, this is the part where you need to know your employees and meetings help with that
Hmm.
because you will know who is really doing what they are supposed to,
Yeah.
who is giving you excuses,
Yep.
and who really doesn't care.
Yeah.
So that's very important because there are places where employees they really don't want to do it
Yep.
and they don't participate at meetings. They don't say anything, but
Yeah.
things are not done,
Yeah.
right? And then that's when you need to figure out, okay, what am I gonna do if this behavior continues? Hopefully, you already talked to them about what are the rules, regulations, duties, responsibilities, and consequences, because you need to have that. Otherwise, employees, if they see that there are no consequences, they will just not deliver in some
Hmm.
cases. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the other thing that I think kind of ties in with that you mentioned earlier is having an agenda, having a plan for the meeting, right? I don't know if I walk into a meeting and I don't have a plan, I will forget things, right? And
Hmm.
like as somebody running the meeting, I will I'll go back later and be like, oh crap, I was gonna ask if somebody could handle this thing, right? Or I was gonna ask if like check in with so and so on how this project's going or whatever it is, right? And if I go into a meeting without an agenda and without a plan, I think that makes a meeting a lot less effective too, right? Where like you're not getting everything accomplished that you need to get done. You're sidelining and maybe talking about some things that are off topic or that you don't really need to address right at that moment, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I think that helps too with like the knowing your employees and kind of telling like who's invested and who's not, right? Like it's a lot easier to get off topic and talk about things that aren't actually high on the priority list if you don't have an agenda coming into it, right? But Not that you need to have
Yes.
like a lot of my, not all of my meetings, but some of my meetings that I'll have, I'll like send an agenda out in advance and like have people like submit agenda items for stuff like that. And I don't know if you need to be set that formal, right, with employee meetings all the time, but I'm assuming like asking people what they want to talk about is also um probably useful as well, right? Like you know what you need to talk about as an owner or manager. But do you have any farms that kind of reach out to employees too and say, so what do you guys want to talk about? Are there things that you want to discuss at our monthly meeting or whatever the cadence is for meetings?
Well, sometimes actually I do this. Sometimes I communicate with employees, the ones that I am working with, or employees or the herdsman, and I say, hey, how are things going? What things do we need to talk about next at the next meeting?
Hmm.
And they tell me I would like to talk about these topics. So when we have the meetings, I already have some background information, so we know what the topic is gonna be, why the topic is important to discuss, and then obviously it's a lot faster to discuss the topic when the information is already laid out. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we are going to move animals or we are going to receive animals. So we want to know when the animals are coming, what pens are they going to be, what are we going to do, like vaccines or tags, ear tags, etc. You know, all the logistics,
Hmm.
which is a lot easier to discuss when you are at the meeting with people who actually are in charge of those things. So, yes, having that helps a lot. But
Hmm.
yeah, there are times where there are topics that are new findings.
Yep.
And hey, this happened last night, so what are we gonna do about it? So, which is normal, it's a farm, we know things
Yeah.
happen. So, but the better prepared you are, that's the best thing. That way you have your agenda and you know the topics you're gonna talk about.
And I think there's a lot of value in having routine meetings too, right?
Mhm.
So I know like our core extension dairy team, we have a meeting once a week at least. Well, usually it's sometimes it's more often, but usually it's once a week. Um, and it makes it really easy if we're like, oh, we have this program coming up or this funding opportunity coming up, or somebody came to us with this question that we want to address as a group. If we know we have a meeting already set that's just kind of always on the calendar, it makes it really easy to be like, we don't necessarily have to talk about this right now, but we have a meeting where we can talk about it. Or if we have new things, like you said, new things coming up, we'll have like, okay, well, we have our regular meetings to discuss that. And so having what like once a month, I feel like is a pretty good cadence for a lot of meetings. Some might need to be more frequent, some might need to be more quarterly, right? But if you have like a routine, like my employees know we're going to be meeting at this time, right? Then you can think about, okay, these are the immediate things that we need to discuss, but also I have some longer term things to discuss, and that would fit really well into this routine meeting that we already have. Um, a lot of farms are going to have like a night shift and a day shift, right? Or they're going to have different people working different schedules. Does it make sense for people to try and combine those meetings, or do you like do something over lunch so that the day crew and the night crew or the whatever whenever you switch shifts kind of have that in the middle, or do you see more people trying to do one meeting for the early shift and one meeting for the late shift or however you split it up?
I would say that, let's say, if you are talking to, let's say, milkers, right, or entry-level jobs, it's better to have the two shifts together. That way you are talking about the same topic, you talk about the same things at the same time, you show same information.
Hmm.
Let's talk about milking, for example. Is the milking routine followed, or we have noticed these things, we have noticed some other things. Sometimes it's not possible, which is normal. So you just have to split the day shift, the night shift, and you have a meeting. Hopefully over pizza,
Yeah,
always
yeah,
helps.
yeah.
That
Food
always
is
helps.
great. Yes.
Food is great. Uh, and the other thing is with your leadership team, I think those meetings should be each week
Hmm.
because you don't want some things to be so far behind. Like a
Yep.
month to month is a lot of time.
Yep.
So let's say you need to prepare the area where you're going to have silage.
Hmm.
So you need to talk to the person in charge of the feed area. Hey, you need to move tires and you need to move implements. Do you need help? What do you need? When do you have time to work on that? So that way you can organize and help and send help. So
Yep.
those are the things, because otherwise a month is gonna pass and now you really need that space, but there are tires, implements, the place is not clean, and the guy is like, I'm busy, I can't do it
Yeah.
by myself."
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think when I think about meetings, I you don't want to have them too frequently, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes they need to happen. Like you said, leadership team meeting once a week. Perfect. Right? I think that's great. You get like your core group together, but you don't need to have or a lot of places would probably find to have a full meeting of all employees once a week. Then your meetings are just going to be a little bit of a waste of everybody's time, right?
Yeah.
Like, but again, if you never meet with all of your employees, or you do it like once a year or whatever else, then it's also a little bit like, well, what's the point of this too, right? So I feel like a lot of times with meetings, you're trying to find that happy medium where it's
The happy
like
medium.
meetings so often enough that we feel like we're getting accomplished, but just because you feel accomplished when you meet more frequently doesn't mean you're going to accomplish even more if you meet even more frequently, right? Is that
No,
and
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 that's,
people are paid too, and people's time is valuable. So
yeah,
yeah,
and that's where you like, even doesn't have to be an hour. The meetings could be
yeah,
30 minutes. I mean, in
yes,
30 minutes you can discuss a lot of things, even maybe 45 if some
yeah,
things really needed to be discussed. But let's say somatic cells are creeping up, but you need to be aware, hey, somatic cells are creeping up. What's going on?
yep,
So next week they are still up. So definitely, what have you done, let's say, to control
yeah,
somatic cells, or what have you done? Have we done? And if the next week are still high, is that's when we need to say, okay, it was when 150,000, now it's 350.
yeah,
So what are we not finding, or what are we not doing, right?
yeah,
So usually meetings within, let's say, week to week, even if it is just 30 minutes, just
hmm,
help you like, okay, somatic cells are back to normal now, so we are good. It's just like to monitor the health of the farm before something more severe happens,
yeah,
and now everybody's concerned, like, hey, somatic cells are at 400,000 or 450, what's going on?
yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's why you
yeah,
track it from time. You give it enough time.
yes. So you can nip things in the bud earlier too. But yeah, I
Hmm.
like what you like a 30-minute meeting to me is perfect for a lot of things, right? And I talked
Hmm.
about our weekly like core team meetings that we have. Sometimes they're 20 minutes, sometimes they're an hour and
Yeah.
a half. Um, and I think especially like if you're talking about your core team, like sometimes like just shooting the breeze a little bit is good for building some rapport. Like if you're talking about your
That's true.
leadership team, right? But obviously if you're talking like you got your milking crew and your barn crew and your maternity crew, like you got the whole like everybody there, like doing a lot of just kind of meandering and off topic discussion is probably not going to be super helpful for having a productive meeting, right? Um,
Hmm.
but I am a firm believer that most meetings should be shorter.
Yeah, no, they have
um,
to.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Because a farm is a busy place, a dairy farm.
exactly. Yes, yes. And
Hmm.
most of what you can say pretty quickly. And I think people appreciate that. They're less likely to tune out, more likely. And if you kind of keep your meetings shorter, you're prioritizing what you have to talk about. You're talking about maybe the more important things and not spending as much time on the less important things. I have a theory that meetings are like gas, right? Like gas will fill, like gas versus liquid versus solid. Gas will fill to the container, and I
Hmm.
think meetings will fill to the time that you put for them. So if you say we're going to meet for an hour, even if you don't have a lot to talk about, you're probably still going to meet for an hour. Versus if you say we're going to meet for 30 minutes, even if you have a lot to talk about, you'll fit it into 30 minutes, right? Um, and
Or you
so,
can also, if there are some things that only you and another person are, you're gonna discuss something directly with that person, the other they can go back to their jobs, you know,
Yeah.
like, okay, this is it. The rest, I just need to talk to
Yep.
the parlor supervisor because with the somatic cells issue,
Yep.
the feed supervisor doesn't need to be there, or they're the calf barn supervisor, whatever. You just talk to that person. Let's see what's going on because it's obviously that becomes a priority, right?
Yeah.
But everybody needs to be aware that we have an issue with somatic cells. Something is happening,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's not like I work in this farm, but I don't know what's going on in the parlor, and I don't know what's going on in the feed area. No, everybody is working in the same place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
What
Yes.
about, so we've been focusing a lot in this discussion about employee meetings and meeting like with your leadership team, with your different crews. What about oh, what would you, so like consulting meetings, right? If you're meeting with like your like nutritionist, your banker, your agronomist, your semen salesperson, right? Like those type of meetings where you're meeting with your consulting team. How often should those be happening? I know it's going to be different for every farm, but um, what should those meetings kind of look like?
I think those ones, since those are, I would say, call it bigger items,
Hmm.
once a month is a good, a good time, you know, because nutritionists, they are sometimes they don't need to be there to adjust their ration. It's just a text
Right.
message. So vaccination protocol, for example, your vet doesn't have to be there just to adjust the vaccination protocol. But month to month, you have a projection of what's going on, what happened, where are we going. I
Hmm.
think every month is fine because the day to day you deal with your supervisors, right? The people in each area. That's why you have your meeting with them, your maybe weekly meeting. You discuss those things. You are in constant communication. So you are addressing the day to day issues. So with the rest of the team, once a month, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe probably not the whole team together once a month too, right? You don't need your always every single month need your veterinarian and your nutritionist and your agronomist and whoever else all there at the same time, right? But you should
Oh,
be right. Like,
the the banker is one that, yeah, I mean, he may not be
yeah.
maybe every 3 months. The
Yeah.
banker is a because a lot of things that you talk to the with the banker are things that are completely not off topic, but you don't talk about silage. You don't talk about. He wants to know more about your inventory,
Yep.
your budget, projections,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And a lot of nutritionists, they like to be there every month because they can walk. Let's
Hmm.
say they like to see how is the
Yes.
silage pile looking?
Yes.
How is the alfalfa? What is the quality? How is the straw that we got? This straw is it has a lot of dust, or this straw is not a good quality. So those are the things that they want to see. But like I said, sometimes it's not necessary for them to be there every week. Yes,
Yeah.
every month. It's
Yeah.
fine.
And I obviously, for all of these types of meetings, we should say it's going to vary a lot with what your farm needs and what your capacity is, right? Like farmers are busy people. Your nutritionist probably wants to walk through at least once a month, but that doesn't mean they need to sit and have an hour-long meeting with you every time they walk through, right? So it kind of, I think a lot of it depends on your capacity as a producer, the size of your operation, how many employees you have, how many consultants you work with, right? Like I think finding something that works for you in yours in like you want to get that full advantage of those meetings, right? But also um
Mhm.
what works for you isn't going to work for your neighbor too, right? Like
Yes, because it is true the size of the dairy, right? That counts for a lot, how big it is. Your meetings may be shorter, right?
yeah.
Because you really don't have that much going on. But the idea of having everybody together is
Yep.
that you are aware that we are changing the ration,
Yep.
okay? So this is
Yep.
going to happen. Or we are changing our vaccination protocol, or we are changing the preferred ration, right?
Hmm.
Why? Because of the issues that we have seen, right? Regularly, we have issues with milk fevers. Okay, is the ration the problem, or is that the cows are not enough time in the pre-fresh ration, right? So
Yeah.
those are the things that at one of these meetings,
Yeah.
everybody's listening to the same information.
Yep.
So, it's not just tweaking the ration. Maybe we need to check the projections. So how much time cows spend in different pens. And like that could be all the other things, right? Like
Yeah.
they can see somatic cells again rising. Well, when you walk the farm, you can see maybe the stalls are not clean. But could be
Yeah.
many things, right?
Yeah. I think that's another valuable point to this whole idea that like whatever your routine looks like, have a routine, right? Don't just have meetings when something comes up, but have some sort of routine
Exactly.
in your schedule. Because if you have, like, for example, say you have a weekly leadership team meeting with your managers, right? Like your parlor manager and your paternity manager and your calf manager, right? Like say that's what works for you, and like a weekly check-in with those folks is part of your schedule. And then you can say, like, it's Monday morning or whenever it is, and you're working with your nutritionist on a milk fever issue. Your nutritionist can come and have that discussion you already have that meeting with your leadership team on the calendar. It's already something that you have every week. And it makes it easier to or have your veterinarian come in to talk about changes to the vaccination protocol. Like you can kind of stagger some of those meetings a little bit if you have that routine already kind of built in.
It is precisely that. It's just to avoid surprises. Like
Yeah.
if something changed,
Yep.
it's good for the rest of the team to know we changed this. So
Yeah.
okay, good to know,
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like I haven't learned any new vocabulary terms this episode. So I jotted down a couple that maybe would be useful to know when we're talking about this topic. So how would I say, ¿cómo se dice en español meeting?
Reunión.
Oh, what?
Reunión o junta.
I don't even know how to
So
spell either of those. Okay.
reunión, I would say, is more formal.
Okay.
Junta, more colloquial. Junta.
Junta.
J, yes, Junta. So you can say, we have a meeting. Tenemos una junta.
Tenemos una junta. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What about agenda?
Agenda.
See, some of these are
Yeah, that's an easy one. Agenda.
sometimes they're real tricky. Like ensalada de alfalfa and vacas.
In vacas.
Or
yes.
Which is alfalfa baleage for those of you who listened to our previous episode. And then sometimes it's just like, oh, you just say the same word just with a different accent.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Like mastitis and mastitis.
Mastitis, yes.
Yeah.
So what about employee?
That's another easy one. Empleado.
Empleado.
Mm-hmm.
Manager.
That one could be administrador. O gerente. Let's say gerente.
Say again?
Gerente. Gerente.
Gerente.
Yes, gerente. Another very common term is administrador, but that could be confused with administrator.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's administering the place. But gerente, it's okay.
Yeah. And then what about owner?
Dueño.
Dueño.
A lot of, yes, dueño. D as in they, U, E, ñ, and
with
O.
The tilde?
Dueño.
Yeah. Dueño.
A lot of people in the US use the word patron, which patron is like owner
like
or
tequila?
boss. Okay. Like the tequila. Yeah, okay. Patron. But dueño is the correct term. It's not that patron is wrong.
Yeah.
But patron is mostly the owner and the boss, let's say.
What's jefe?
Boss.
That's also boss? Okay.
Boss. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So
I
that's
think we
like,
got quite a few terms.
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I will put those. I've got a growing stack of vocabulary words to practice.
Yeah, you chose easy ones this time.
Yes, I never know if they're gonna be easy or hard. So it's a surprise for me every time.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
guess, like I said, the ones that come with Greek or Latin roots, they
Yeah,
are going to be the same, just different intonation, different
yeah,
pronunciation. Say, yeah.
yeah. Ah, well, great discussion today, Miguel. Anything else that you want to throw out there before we end this episode?
Well, I would say that it is important to consider having the meetings. Like I said, it is a good way to gauge the state of the farm. And not only that, but you know your employees. Again, it
Hmm.
gives you that time with them, see how they react to challenges. Who says yes, I help, who says that's not my job, or they don't pay me
Right.
for that, or that's not my area. Remember, it's the same farm.
Yeah.
So we are all interconnected. If the feeding guy doesn't feed on time, the breeding guy is going to have issues because the cows are not going to be locked up.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
cows are going to go to the parlor without eating anything before. So those things are important and everybody needs to know. So
Yeah.
that's why it's good to have the meetings. Yeah.
Yeah. The farm is a
Okay.
system. I talk to my students about that all
Mhm.
the time. You can't just look at one area, right? It's not just calves or milking parlor or
Mhm.
whatever. Like everything ties in with everything else. So you have to remember all of those moving pieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's the nice thing when people understand that they are all interconnected, decisions are even easier to make
Hmm.
because they know, okay, if I help you solve this issue, that's beneficial for me also,
Yep. Yeah.
you
We all
know,
have common goals
we
in
have common goals,
even if it seems like we don't. Ultimately, especially within a farm,
especially in
everybody's
a
kind
farm.
of everybody's working towards the same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very good. Well, I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us today on this special Spanish Fridays episode of Dairy News and Views from the ISU Extension Dairy Team. If you want to learn more about our resources and what we have available, you can check out our extension website at extension.iastate.edu/dairy team. And if you want to find out more about Miguel's work, you can visit his website at optimumdairy.com.
This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.